Cal Harper first noticed the glow on a Tuesday after the evening edition had been put to bed. Everyone else had already tramped down the stairwell, desperate for the last train, but Cal lingered in the metropolitan section, staring at a skeletal stack of unused newsprint. A faint greenish shimmer leaked from the supply closet at the end of the corridor. Thinking it was a faulty exit sign, Cal opened the door and discovered the old Royal Typewriter. The thing looked venerable, even by newsroom antique standards. Glossy black enamel, glass keytops edged in nickel, return arm finely balanced like a clock hand. It sat on a wheeled cart beside dusty bound volumes of the paper from the 1930s. The shimmer was coming from the type bars, each metal arm tipped with an iridescent droplet that swam like liquid moonlight. The keys, though unlabeled by modern letters, invited touch. Cal laid a hesitant fingertip on the A and felt a mild static pop. Then nothing. That night's deadline, already met, had left Cal oddly restless. 3 months earlier, an investigative series about predatory loans had fallen apart when their key source disappeared, and ever since, the city edition felt limp, uninterested in justice. Cal rolled the typewriter into the open bullpen. Maybe curiosity, or maybe the faint pull of nostalgia, pushed a sheet of scrap copy paper into its platen. He typed, "City Council Chief, accused of embezzling youth fund." The carriage rattled obediently, but as soon as Cal yanked the paper out, fresh words appeared beneath the line, letters materializing as if invisible fingers were still tapping. Full confession expected by morning. Cal's pulse hopped. He glanced toward the city skyline gridded in the windows. No one was there to see the extra sentence. He crumpled the sheet, telling himself fatigue had birthed a hallucination. He left, locking the bullpen, and caught the last train like everyone else. At dawn, Cal awoke to vibrating phone alerts. Every outlet in town and half the national wires blared the same bombshell. The council chief had been detained overnight, accused of siphoning youth rec center funds, and a statement was promised by noon. Exactly what the phantom text had said. Cal rushed to the office where editors were high-fiving one another for intuition that had prompted a late-night phone call to the police bureau. Only Cal knew there had been no intuition. There had been a sentence and a glow. He found the Royal back in the supply closet as though it had rolled itself home. The platen was empty. He slipped another sheet into place, heart slamming. Metro commuter train derails, 19 injured, he wrote, then paused, waiting to see if the typewriter would append more. Nothing. But as Cal hesitated, a chill tightened his throat. What if the machine printed the future only if Cal began the headline himself? Cal tore the page out and shredded it, stuffing the confetti deep in the trash. Shivering, he left without signing out. That afternoon, a train did derail on the northbound track. 21 injured, 2 more than Cal's unread sentence. TV helicopter shots showed twisted metal, commuters carried out on stretchers, a toddler bandaged. Cal vomited in the restroom, rinsed his mouth, and swore never to touch the Royal again. But the Royal had other plans. The next evening, the copy desk's email lit up with a Word file titled, "Tomorrow, no sender." Inside, city storms leave 4 dead, dozens displaced. Meteorologists were forecasting a mild drizzle. Cal emptied the newsroom spam folder and hoped no one else opened the file. The storms never materialized, though a sudden downpour did flood a couple basement apartments across town, injuring no one. Cal guessed that minimal damage was the machine's sulking revenge for being ignored. He hunted library morgue microfilm for mentions of haunted equipment, hoping to decode the Royal's origin. A 1937 editorial cartoon caught his eye, a skeleton at a typewriter under the caption, "Headlines from the Abyss." But the archive offered no explanation. When Cal returned upstairs, the Royal was perched at his desk like a cat demanding breakfast. The monitors on either side flickered and died. A new sheet waited inside the typewriter. No glow this time, only stark silence. The page read, "Deadline approaches. Story will be written. Choose kinder ending." Beneath, a blank space invited cooperation. Cal folded into his chair, palms sweating. He thought of the council chief, the train derailment, the almost storm, power, but also responsibility. Was the Royal asking for moral partnership or issuing threat? Maybe both? He typed cautiously. Local shelter receives an Onimo gift, 150 beads saved. The Royal accepted the period. 5 seconds passed, then the machine began typing on its own, keys clacking in patient cadence. Readers applaud city's compassionate heart. Volunteerism surges. Cal exhaled. "Deal," he whispered. Next morning, a millionaire who had grown up homeless wired $500,000 to the Harbor Haven shelter. The city's talk radio lines clogged with people signing up to deliver dinners, donate coats, tutor displaced kids. Every other news shop in town covered the story, but only Cal's paper had the headline prelayed. The editors demanded to know Cal's source. He lied about cultivating a pipeline among philanthropic circles. Accolades reigned, a staff plaque followed, but the weight of secrecy pressed harder. Word spread that the Chronicle, long a second-tier daily, suddenly scooped competitors with uncanny accuracy. Tipsters begged Cal to divine their fates, but he stayed evasive. Only one person he trusted enough to witness the royal, Liana Park, senior designer, who had spent many marathon shifts perfecting impossible layouts with him. More importantly, Liana possessed an ethical core firm as bedrock. He brought her after hours, showed the glow, described the headlines that had come true. Her first question wasn't how, but why. Maybe journalism's original sin, Cal said. We pretend objectivity, but every choice shapes reality. This typewriter just removes the pretense. Liana ran a fingertip across the glass keys. If we can write the future kinder, she said, is it wrong to refuse? Depends, Cal admitted, on who defines kinder. They struck a pact, nothing selfish, vindictive, or sensational. Every headline must alleviate suffering without harming anyone, and each must respect freedom, no magical coercion of individual will. The royal seemed to approve. Its enamel casing warmed under their palms like sun-soaked stone. For weeks, the city blossomed. Community rallies to clean riverfront, water tests safe for first time in decades. Volunteers showed up with trash grabs, kayaks, and good humor. Fish returned. Stolen art trove discovered at garret sale. Museum reunites collections. An elderly widow unwittingly donated priceless modernist canvases, and the museum waived all admission fees for a month in gratitude. Circulation spiked, advertisers poured in, raising new funding for investigative work. The Chronicle hired interns from underrepresented neighborhoods, doubled its public records lawsuits, and translated civic media recaps into Spanish, Vietnamese, and ASL videos. City Hall grew wary yet responsive. Budgets shifted toward mental health and infrastructure. But power attracts challenge. One late Friday, the royal spat out a message neither Cal nor Liana initiated. Headline: Publisher suffers stroke. Paper sold to corporate holding. A countdown ticked at the bottom. Digital characters burned glowing through the paper. 3:00 and 0 seconds. 3 hours. Cal hammered the keys. Override. Cancel. Nothing. He tried ripping the page free, but the carriage locked. The countdown fell to 2:59 and 54 seconds. Liana arrived, called by Cal's frantic texts. They debated. If the machine predicted tragedy, could altering the wording save the publisher, or did mention create manifestation? So far, they had guided outcomes positively, but here the royal preempted them as though testing authority. We need a kinder ending, Liana said. One consistent with free will. Let's try. Publisher kicks nicotine, runs first marathon. Health narrative opposite direction. They inserted a fresh sheet and typed the replacement. The royal hesitated, keys twitching, then printed beneath. Moral boosts entire newsroom, profit rise. The countdown vanished. Cal and Liana sagged in relief. Next morning, the 68-year-old publisher arrived at work flushed with pride. She'd completed a 5-mile charity run at dawn and announced a personal training goal of the city marathon. She also pledged to match employees' fitness fundraisers dollar for dollar. Shareholders cheered. The royal had accepted negotiation. Yet humility thinned when, during a spring thunderstorm, Cal wrote recklessly, "Gang truce calls, halt to violence." A noble desire, but he failed to consult outreach groups about complexities of territorial economics. The royal appended, "Truce fractures, retaliation, ARATs." Cal panicked, tried to yank the sheet, but too late. That night, 2 teenage lookouts exchanged gunfire. One was killed. The guilt clawed him raw. Liana found him hunched in the darkened bullpen, weeping. "We need safeguards," she said. Journalistic standards for rewriting the future. So they composed a code. 1, every proposed headline must seek informed consent from stakeholders when feasible. 2, outcomes may inspire, educate, or heal, but cannot dictate private decision. 3, if uncertainty exists, choose transparency. Community begins conversation about rather than definitive results. 4, the royal must never be used for personal gain. The machine accepted the printed list, then embossed its own pledge beneath, "Will honor stories chosen with moral intent, No sooner had peace settled than corporate raiders sniffed the Chronicle's rising valuation. Competing papers, jealous of scoops, investigated leaks. Rumors churned about a magic AI, with reporters now surveilling their own secrecy frayed. One evening, Cal discovered a rival columnist, Desmond Thrace, photographing the royal in the supply closet. The glow reflected in Desmond's eager eyes. Before Cal could intervene, Desmond shoved a sheet inside and jabbed keys. Rival newsroom exposed for manipulating markets. The carriage clattered half a sentence, then froze, metal arms tangling, letters smoked, fusing in molten globs. Desmond swore, burning fingers, and fled, leaving the typewriter crippled. Leanna arrived with a toolbox. She pried the carriage open, clean, charred metal. When power returned, the royal produced a single, feeble line: betrayal, inviolate authority. Cal and Liana debated whether to retire the device, fearing further intrusion. But the city still throbbed with chronic wounds, eviction spikes, opioid deaths, climate anxiety. They decided the best defense was openness. The next day, the Chronicle published a column co-authored by Cal and Liana, Your Newspaper's Secret Ally, and Why We're Sharing the Keyboard. It laid bare the haunted typewriter, its potential, its code, and invited readers to propose headlines that healed rather than harmed. A URL led to a public forum moderated for civility. The article ended, "The future shouldn't be written behind closed doors. Bring your best ending." Predictably, half the internet called it clickbait, the rest called it witchcraft, but thousands submitted ideas. Elderly veterans find homes with a Dr. Grandpa program. Citywide library card challenge doubles local farmers. Cal, Liana, and a rotating ethics committee, teachers, activists, clergy, high school journalists voted weekly on top candidates, then fed them to the royal. They maintained transparency by uploading before/after effects. When the Adopt a Grandpa headline ran, senior homelessness dropped 30% within months, aided by a social services grant inspired by the coverage. When the Literacy Challenge headline appeared, library signups surged. Corporate sponsors donated tablets loaded with ebooks. Some headlines fizzled harmlessly. World record for largest potluck produced a rainy day that washed out the picnic. Others bloomed in unexpected ways. The plant-based festival grew annually, reducing the city's meat consumption and methane footprint by measurable percentages. Crucially, every success was communal. The typewriter only nudged, people fulfilled. The newsroom became an agora where local dreams auditioned for reality. Reporters still investigated corruption, but now they posted sidebars inviting readers to script redemptive paths. What outcome would you work toward? Not all queries found uptake, yet each reminded audiences that news wasn't fate, it was potential. 2 years into the experiment, the Chronicle received a Peabody for participatory futurism. Universities studied its feedback loops, civic groups replicated forums for policy innovation. The city's crime rate fell, high school graduation climbed, housing displacement slowed via inclusionary zoning that activists drafted after reading royal-inspired think pieces. But paradise remained mortal. During budget negotiations, a block of council members threatened to cut arts funding. The forum flooded with anxious pleas. Cal composed, "Council unanimously expands arts budget, citing economic benefits." The committee approved. Yet when the sheet slid under the royal's platen, the machine refused to move. Green glow darkened to bruise purple. On the paper appeared one typed clause: readers must choose. The meaning dawned on Cal. They had been selecting headlines for readers, even if democratically filtered. Now the machine demanded direct agency. It wanted the public to write the story themselves. So they announced a citywide event, Headlines for Tomorrow, pop-ups in libraries, parks, subway stations. Volunteers lugged the royal, encased in a clear box, connected through Bluetooth to large displays that echoed keystrokes so everyone could see. Anyone could step forward, propose a kinder ending, and watch the words emerge on screen. At first shy, citizens soon crowded lines. A seventh grader typed family-friendly, bus route extended to beach. An elderly sculptor wrote, vacant lots converted into free studio huts. A paramedic added, city installs opioid test strips in all restrooms. Each proposal scrolled live. Onlookers voted by tapping yes/no on tablets. The highest ranked headline each day became the Chronicle's front page at dawn. Council members found themselves besieged not by lobbyists but by thousands of residents quoting front pages they had co-written. A week later, the arts budget not only escaped cuts, it grew by 15%, as evidence of economic ripple effects stacked high. The bus route to the beach launched a pilot schedule by summer. Restroom test strips saved dozens of overdose deaths within months. The royal, central, yet silent, never again resisted. It seemed satisfied that authorship had diffused fully. Only once did it issue a warning, late on a quiet Thursday. Cal stopped by the box to polish fingerprints off the glass. Inside, without keys moving, a single sentence manifested: "When forgotten, I return to shadow." Cal understood. The machine wasn't a crutch meant to endure forever. Its magic was a reminder, not a replacement. For collective conscience, as long as people believed their choices could devise the story, the royal would serve. But apathy would banish it, and tomorrow's headlines would revert to randomness and fear. On the paper's reverse, Cal scribbled a promise: "We will remember." Years rolled. The Chronicle's forum evolved into a civic platform administered by a foundation unaffiliated with any single newspaper. Other cities adopted similar kind-edit assemblies. Some analog, some digital, none reliant on haunted hardware. The original Royal now resided in the local historical museum, still in its glass case under rotating LED lights that never quite replicated the early greenish glow. One morning, a flock of elementary students clustered around the exhibit. Their teacher pointed to a plaque describing how a community once literally wrote better futures. A girl raised her hand. "Is it still haunted?" "No," the teacher said. "The magic moved into us." Yet, as the class filed out, the girl lingered. She pressed her nose to the glass. Just for a breath, under the keys, she thought she saw a flicker of light, soft, inviting, ready. She smiled. Certain headlines were only beginnings.